on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Binga banga booma. It's 5:06. It's Tuesday morning. I have no idea what that means, but it gets me going. You got to have energy in the morning, Patrice. Do you have
at 4:30 when we meet up?
Yeah,
you got to.
Do you have a routine to give yourself energy?
I pump it up.
See that? Yeah,
this is what I do.
You're moving your arms like you're at the gym,
up and down and pumping,
and you've
or like I'm a Jersey Shore dancer, like Jersey Shore, the TV show.
Yes, I'm very aware of it, and you can stop that now.
Okay,
make you be exhausted. Well, you see me sometimes right before the mic turns on. I go, I do that just to get the blood flowing. Anyway, yeah, whatever you need to do to get your energy going this morning, do it, because it's Tuesday, and we're flying along here this post-Thanksgiving week. It's 6:35. Nate Hurto, now, he's the founder of Save Del Rey over in Alexandria, and there's a zoning vote today that's probably coming under the radar, but you need to know about it. It's 7:05. Gavin Pepper, he's a candidate who's local here, but he's in Ireland right now. Is that right? Is he a candidate? He's an Irish politician. Gotcha. All right. Thank you. A politician in Ireland. We talked about this yesterday, about the changing face of the Irish landscape there and what's going on in Ireland. So Gavin Pepper, that's a very Irish name, isn't it? If it isn't Gavin Pepper, here on O'Connor and Company. 7:35, Elizabeth McGuigan, Vice President, Policy and Government Affairs at Philanthropy Roundtable, because today's Giving Tuesday. Oh, and then our friend Sean Spicer at 8:05. All right, Patrice. I sort of Sean Spicer is an afterthought. Oh, and Sean Spicer.
He's a friend of the show.
Yeah, oh, sure. He was the spokesperson.
He's a part of the show, pretty much.
White House, and he was on Dancing with the Stars. That's just Sean. Sean Spicer at 8:05. Patrice, it's good to have you here. We have an update here. We've wondered what the fallout would be, right? There's a buzz today. Is that on the air, or is that just in my ear? We'll resolve that, but somebody's buzzing. Oh, that's better. Well done, Michael, whatever that was. When we see all of these anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic protests on America's elite universities, we've been openly wondering, Patrice, what will the repercussion be? What will the boomerang effect be? What will the fallout be? Why would you want to I'll be honest. My son is at UC San Diego, which of the UC schools, it's actually one of the tamest and a little bit more. It's not any UC school you go to is going to be problematic, but it's better. UC San Diego is. But they had an ugly anti-Palestinian protest, and I thought to myself, my God, do I want to keep supporting this school?
That's right.
And we have a report here that you noted that some of the more elite, wealthy Jewish families are pulling the trigger here on pulling their kids from these elite Ivy League schools in particular.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. So this is in the New York Post. Wealthy Jewish families are rejecting the Ivy League for Plan B schools. So think about these students who their parents have been donating to the Harvards and the Columbias since the kids were born, pretty much ensuring that their seat would be ready by the time they turn 18 or 19 years old.
Let me tell you something, because I used to live in New York. When women get pregnant, and this isn't just exclusive to wealthy Jewish families, when you live in Manhattan and your wife is pregnant, you start donating to private schools immediately. Like before, that's how you get, like for a preschool. And there's like a whole interview and application process to these really elite private schools in Manhattan. And you start making those donations like 3 years before preschool, before the child is even born, so you can be in line. So I have no doubt that they've been doing this at the universities as well.
Exactly. So now a lot of these Jewish families are saying, wait a minute, we don't feel comfortable. I mean, you have the protest, but you also have the intimidation, the harassment, the physical attacks, and obviously the verbal attacks on Jewish students. And so these families are saying, you know what? We have applications in maybe early action, early admission to the top Ivy schools. We're either going to pull those, or we're just going to start applying, right before the deadlines, which is usually this week or going into the next couple of weeks, to some of those elite top tier but maybe B-level schools, so maybe the top 30s, the top 40s, rather than the top 10 schools. And that's going to have an impact because, number one, And actually, I wrote about this recently for the Philanthropy Roundtable. Donors at higher ed donors are using their dollars to speak, and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to withhold funding if you don't get your act together, college administrators, and quench this anti-Semitic rhetoric on campus." But now, if their kids are not going to even be going, you definitely can believe that they're not going to be investing in these universities, putting their names on buildings, and funding a lot of these programs at colleges and universities.
Cited in this New York Post article is a college admissions consultant named Christopher Rim, and I find this fascinating. He's saying Jewish families' biggest concern is really about how the administrations didn't react to protect all of their students, which clearly it took Harvard forever to put out any kind of statement, and even when it did, it was lukewarm. But let me pause there for a minute. It shouldn't have come to this. I mean, we were talking about what we saw in Stanford when a Trump-appointed judge was talking to Stanford Law, and he was berated by the left-wing activist students at Stanford Law. This was earlier in the year. We saw what happened to our friend Riley Gaines and also Ilyan Shapiro, right? At Georgetown University, Georgetown Law, because he wrote a column criticizing Biden's appointee to the Supreme Court because he said, well, I don't care who it is, it's going to be a black woman. And so he said, well, why are we doing that? Why shouldn't it just be the most qualified person instead of just deciding about? And he got so we've been talking about how radical these college campuses are. It took this, and the administrations did nothing about that. It took this event, but fine. I'm glad the event happened. I'm glad that minds have been changed now because of this event. But let me continue what Mr. Rim says. Private schools in more it's not just private schools, not just Plan B schools, Patrice, but specifically private schools in more conservative parts of the country, like Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, Emory in Atlanta, SMU near Dallas. I love that Jewish students, Jewish parents want to send their kids to Southern Methodist University in Dallas.
If it's safe.
And Vanderbilt in Nashville. These are popular choices. These are elite private schools, but they're in red states. They're in conservative Christian states that have more respect and more tolerance for Jewish students and are pro-Israel than you're going to see at Columbia or Harvard.
You know, we've been waiting for colleges to become more competitive in terms of what the value they're offering to students. Now another measurement for value is protection, is safety on campus. And so if you see these, competitive schools that are not at the Ivy League level, but certainly good, they're going to become more competitive as other students say, you know what? Do I really need to go to Columbia? Do I really need to go to Harvard? If the administrators are acting up like this, if my kids don't feel safe, it may be Jewish students right now. Yeah. It could be fill in the blank type of student tomorrow. Conservatives have had to deal with this and have made choices based on that. And so you're seeing a change in the marketplace in higher education that I'm all for. I'm all for this.
100%. This is how change needs to happen, and it certainly is going to happen when the money starts drying up. But think about those poor parents who have been donating since their kids were in elementary school, and now they're just writing it off as a loss. Oh, well, I'd rather send my kid to Vanderbilt.
But that's a strong message.
And know that they're protected, absolutely. But this is why also Young America's Foundation and groups groups like Independent Women's Forum, who also has a lot of good programs going on at college campus, it's incredibly important to support them. Listen, it's Giving Tuesday, so why not give a little? All right, a little bit more on this. And actually, I had an exchange with my son, who's at UC San Diego, about this very thing, because there was a protest on his campus. So I'll share with you my communications with my son about this. He's such a smart aleck. I know, shocking that my son would be a smart aleck. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, it's 5:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the 5. Would you have guessed, Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center, that my son is a sarcastic little guy?
Where does he get it?
I know. His mother. And his stepmother, definitely.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Support our wounded warriors during the Fisher House Radiothon November 30th and December 1st. Visit WMAL.com/FisherHouse.
So my son, Christian, who is not Jewish, you might have guessed that by his name. But he has been raised, as all my children have, to have a great, deep, abiding love and affection for the Jewish people and certainly for the state of Israel. Our bucket list dream vacation for a family is to go to Israel. We had planned.
That would be powerful.
We had planned to do that actually 12 years ago when I first got my job. It's kind of a legendary moment with our boss, Bill Hess, the program director. He hired me here at WMAL, and I said, in mid-October of 2012, I said, oh my gosh, that's great. Thanks for the job. I've got a week-long vacation scheduled in November that I have to take because I was traveling with my children. It was really the last big family vacation we had together as a family. And we did a cruise in the Mediterranean, and it was supposed to stop at Tel Aviv. We were going to have 2 days in Israel, and it got canceled because of the cruise didn't get canceled, but that stop got canceled because of tensions at the time. It was sort of a Arab Spring associated kind of time. It didn't stop in Alexandria either. It was supposed to stop there, but we stayed on the northern side of the Mediterranean and did Turkey and all that stuff. Anyway, the point is, yes, we've always been huge supporters of the state of Israel, and of course I have Jewish lineage in my family. So I reach out to my son, who's at UC San Diego now. He's a freshman, just started. And I text him, I'll read the text. I said, are you staying out of trouble? I saw some bad scene on the campus, anti-Israel protesters. He said, I haven't seen any actual protests here. I've steered clear of it. And I said, well, you should reach out to a Jewish student, maybe with one of the Jewish groups on campus, and let them know that you're an ally and you're a friend because it's ugly there and they're probably kind of scared. And I didn't realize how dorky that sounded, so of course leave it to my son. My son replies and says, yeah, I'll go around to everyone I think who might be Jewish and say, it's okay, man, I feel your pain. Which, like what an idiot I am. And so then I pick up his sarcastic cue. I said, yeah, and you can wear an I Love Ben Shapiro's sister T-shirt. Because I don't know if you know this, but they're
oh my goodness!
For young men of a certain age, they're big fans of Ben Shapiro's sister because she's an attractive young woman, and
she's very cute,
yes.
And apparently Drake finds her very attractive too, as I just
that is correct.
Found out online.
No, Ben's sister Abby is a bit of a thing there with a certain age group, and anyway, and he knows that I know Ben. Anyway, and then he replied and says, no, I'll just keep it with I Love Ben Shapiro. I'll be the most popular kid on campus. So then we went on to talk about what he wants for Christmas. But you have to have these conversations now with your kids.
That's right.
I didn't have to worry about that with Veronica at the Naval Academy, and because this sort of thing is absolutely not tolerated. But I'm keeping an eye on UC San Diego now on a daily basis, and if we have to move him, we will. Yeah,
you know what?
And if the administration signals that they're taking sides, and they're taking the wrong side for that matter, I think they should take sides. They should take sides with the freedom-loving democracy, the peaceful victims in this attack, the Israelis. But if they're going to take sides at all, that should be the side they take. And if they do, then we got to rethink what he's doing there.
Well, here's the thing. In 2020, we saw universities, academia, vociferous, loud, boisterous, in support of Black Lives Matter, saying, the statements, DEI efforts, even asking potential professors who are being hired to write DEI statements about inclusivity.
Oh,
right?
They hired DEI deans. They
had deans. They expanded their administrations.
Yes.
Yeah, with all of these DEI folks who are supposed to make the atmospheres on campus welcoming for everyone. We are now seeing that was virtue signaling, and we're also seeing that that welcoming doesn't mean for everyone. It means for a preferred minority group, but it doesn't mean for Jewish students. And so, I love calling out the hypocrisy of this, and to tell students, Black students, oh, you need to make sure that you are coming together and feeling protected and safe, and to tell white students you have to show that you're an ally and anti-racist. So, all right, I guess now the time is to do this. The shoe is on the other foot. Are you telling Jewish students that you should be safe and protected? Are you telling allies of Jewish students, yeah, make sure your friends are good and safe? And frankly, if universities were smart, they would just make sure that they have a safe environment for everybody rather than picking and choosing which groups they want to align themselves with or make victims.
That's a great point. And, we should use their manipulated language and ideology against them. You know what? It's not good enough to just say, oh, I'm anti-Semitic. No. You need to be anti-Semitic. Right? You need to take the Ibram X. Kendi language and use it against them.
take the microaggressions out. You should not be waving a Palestinian flag right now. You should not be saying from the what is it,
from the river to the sea.
From the river to the seas. That is a huge microaggression if you want to use their terms in their language. And you try and use it on them, and then they're going to go dumb silent because we're calling out their hypocrisy on this.
I'd call it a macroaggression, actually.
No, I agree. That's
absolutely
true.
right. It's all right. Coming up, things turning serious now with the hostage negotiations in Israel, the extended ceasefire. What fruits will it harvest? Well, it's not good news for a little 9-month-old baby. A 9-month-old baby. We're going to give you the latest on that horrific story in a moment.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. It's O'Connor and Company on this Tuesday morning. We are already flying by. I can't believe the first half hour is already behind us. Hurry, call someone, wake up a friend so they can hear this program. It's 6:35. Nate Hurto, founder of Save Del Rey in Alexandria, about new zoning that's being proposed today. It's 7:05. Gavin Pepper. This is a politician in Ireland to give us a firsthand account on what's looking like on the ground there. 7:35. Elizabeth McGeegan. This is a person from Philanthropy Roundtable. Talk about Giving Tuesday. And then at 8:05, our good friend, man about town, Sean Spicer, will join us. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka, also our good friend. Hello, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
I was going to come up with an Irish greeting, but I don't know a lot of them.
A top of the morning to you.
Okay.
And Onwuka does
Top
sound
of the
kind of
morning.
Irish. You should just put a little apostrophe in there. Onwuka.
Onwuka?
Onwuka. Or, yeah.
Well, Lee is my maiden name, and Lee is actually Irish. I have Irish roots.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. We'll stick with Patrice Lee for today. No one get anyone in trouble.
Okay.
So, a couple of things that we're learning now about the various hostage releases that have been occurring in Israel. The first one has to do with this little baby, a 9-month-old baby named Kafir Bibas. This 9-month-old baby is not, actually, I guess 10-month-old now, right? 9 months when he was taken hostage, but now 10-month-old. Think about that. This baby is being held. Sorry, it's hard to just wrap my brain around that sometimes. This 10-month-old baby and the hell that this child has been through for the last 6 weeks. There are now reports, not only is a little Kafir not part of the latest round of releases from these barbaric terrorists, but there's a report that the Hamas terrorists have actually handed this baby over to a different terrorist group. Like this baby's being traded and exchanged, sold as some kind of commodity between one group or another for their own deadly, malevolent purposes. And it's just, it again shines a light on what's exactly going on the ground there.
So adding slavery to the list of barbarism by Hamas, is that enough to kind of quiet the pro-Hamas supporters in this country?
Yeah.
Is that enough yet?
You would think it would be. But no, we'll have the Washington Post referring to them as captives. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed that the Bibas family, including the youngest hostage, the 10-month-old Kafir Bibas, had been transferred by Hamas to one of the other terror groups in Khan Yunis, Gaza. They're trading these children and their parents as some sort of exchange token. There's that. There's also this story, and I'm sure that this is just a coincidence, and I'm sure there's nothing nefarious at play here, and I'm sure it's just one of those dumb luck, one in a million things. But you know how the first multiple releases of hostages that we saw transpire over the weekend didn't include one of the Americans that are being held. Not one American was released. And here's Joe Biden.
Noticeable.
Yeah, and Joe Biden's doing this victory lap, about, oh, look what I've done. I've released the hostages. And everyone's like, well, can we get at least one American? Why are you so weak? Why are you so weak? Well, there was a big, big ballyhoo about yesterday. One child was released, a 4-year-old who has joint U.S. and Israeli citizenship, little Abigail Moore Eden, all right, was released. So that's the first American hostage that has finally been released. But get this story from CBS News. Abigail, whose parents were killed in the Hamas attacks in Israel, turned 4-year-old last week while in captivity in Gaza. She was kidnapped and taken to Palestinian enclave during the deadly rampage, along with an estimated 240 others. President Biden spoke about Abigail's release in televised remarks Sunday. She's free. She's in Israel, doing a little bit of a victory lap there, right? Mm-hmm. Benjamin Weingarten, a journalist who dives in and sort of uncovers a lot of stories that get overlooked by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Looked at the person's name here and the family name associated with this American hostage that was released and discovered something about Abigail's great aunt. In the CBS News report, it says Abigail's great aunt, Liz Hirsch Naftali, and her cousin Noah Naftali said in a statement Sunday, "We hoped and prayed today would come. There are no words to express." All right, so that's a very distinctive name, Liz Hirsch Naftali, the great aunt of this little girl. Benjamin Weingarten did some digging, and he put out on X.com here. So you're telling me that the great aunt of the youngest American hostage, the first American to be released by Hamas, is also one of the buyers of Hunter Biden's art?
What? Come on now. What?
I'm not kidding. Remember how one of the people who purchased Hunter Biden's art was then given a presidential appointment to Joe Biden's U.S. Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad? We did this story. It's like, oh, what a coincidence. You buy all this art from Hunter Biden, and suddenly you get a presidential appointment to this cushy little commission. Well, that's who this is. Liz Hirsch Naftali, the great aunt of the first hostage, American hostage to be released, also happens to be a big lover of Hunter Biden's artwork and also received a presidential appointment. Again, Patrice, I'm glad the baby is released. Every single person should be released. But what a coincidence that the only hostage that was released also happens to be connected financially to Hunter Biden and the Biden family.
I mean, this raises so many questions.
Yeah, it sure does.
But corruption is the word that's attached to almost every one, right? How can you not find corruption? Not just, the baby's release is one thing,
yes,
and very important. But do you have to buy Hunter's art to get your family member released?
Exactly.
As an American citizen?
Exactly.
Is that what it takes for the U.S. government to act?
And of course, I certainly hope not.
I hope not,
but
too.
The
but
fact that it even
terrible.
has to be asked. This is why you don't want corruption in the White House. This is why you don't want your son making millions of dollars with all of these connections. Because then when the president acts, it looks like it's motivated by money.
Exactly. So Benjamin Weingarten, he did post a follow-up addendum to his initial post, and he says the timeline is not clear as to when Miss Naftali bought Hunter's art versus when she was appointed.
Right.
Yeah, whether it was before or after, either way.
It doesn't matter about the appointment. Like, of all of the artwork in the world, you had to buy Hunter's. And of all the people in the world that could be named to a commission, this buyer of Hunter's artwork gets named to that commission. Right.
And
every single family member of the other 8, we believe, maybe 9 remaining hostages have got to be left wondering now, if only we had purchased some artwork from the crackhead, corrupt son of the president, maybe our loved one would be released right now. This is why it's a problem.
Well, let's hope, number one, that the American government is trying its best to get American citizens out.
Thank you.
These hostages out, whoever they are, whether they are connected or lining the pockets of the president's son, or whether they're just regular people. Let's hope that this is still a priority, because it's increasingly seeming like it's not. It's a priority for Israel to get the hostages out, but I don't know. The U.S. government seems to be sitting on its hands in some ways.
Our weak president looks like he's just standing on the sideline as a passive observer as this whole thing transpires. And then the one American that is released has financial connections to his crackhead, corrupt son. It's dirty and gross. I still can't get over this story. Ben Weingarten does really good journalism, really good reporting, and he certainly dug into this whole thing. And yes, it is the case that, and again, sure, it's a coincidence, that the great aunt of the woman of the little child, the 4-year-old that was released. And again, I'm not taking anything away. I want every single person released by the Hamas terrorists. But the fact that the one that got released also happens to be somebody connected financially to the corrupt Biden family is just beyond despicable. Meanwhile, Elon Musk was in Israel. We mentioned this yesterday. He toured the area with President Benjamin Netanyahu. He got a firsthand look at the scene of part of the massacre there at the music festival on October 7th. He also saw a presentation of the videos. A lot of people in the media and politics have been able to see these horrific videos of the body cameras that the Hamas terrorists created themselves. They were proud of what they did. They live streamed a lot of it. They put it out on social media. They wanted the world to see them massacring Jews.
Absolutely. And create their own propaganda reels for the future.
Of course, social media companies took them down immediately, but it's on the dark web, and people who want to find it can find it. Well, the IDF and the Israeli government, in the spirit of Dwight Eisenhower, who made sure that there was photographic evidence and film evidence taken of Auschwitz and other prison camps and horror houses created by the Nazis, because people will deny it. We've got people denying it now. People saying that October 7th didn't really happen, that it was a hoax. It's like, they literally live streamed it, the Hamas.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the Israeli government has put together this presentation for visitors to see, and they've got the footage. Elon Musk saw that, and here's a little bit of what he had to say afterwards.
Difficult day. It was certainly been a day, I would say an emotionally difficult day to see the places where people were murdered. I just did a talk with the Prime Minister, and I think obviously there are three things that need to happen in the Gaza situation. I mean, there's no choice but to kill those who insist on murdering civilians. There's no choice. They're not going to change their mind. And then the second thing is to change the education so that a new generation of murderers is not trained to be murderers. And then the third thing, which is also very important, is to try to build prosperity.
That's Elon Musk, and you can hear it in his voice that he was certainly affected by what he saw.
He's absolutely broken up. I think it was a very wise move. Obviously, we know that because of a tweet that an X post that he liked, he has sponsors, advertisers like Airbnb and Coca-Cola and Microsoft halting their ads, potentially pulling them in the future. There's a big PR machine to push these companies away from X, because I think, a lot of leftists don't like X anymore, and certainly want to undermine Elon Musk. But
they're not big fans of free speech. That's true.
They're not. But if there's anyone who can go to who can create from nothing something of value and something that the world wants to be a part of and consume and promote, it's Elon Musk. And we've seen him do this with companies. And so his commitment to Israel, his commitment to rebuilding what happened, I think is worth applauds. And I think it's going to happen, provided that he's still in power and he's still connected to the Netanyahu government.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I mean, yes, there were some people who raised some concerns about the tweet that Elon Musk liked, but many people have come out and said actually the language in the tweet may have been imprecise, but actually the spirit behind it. I saw Ben Shapiro actually say there's nothing anti-Semitic about this. Come on. What's really happening with the advertisers is Media Matters is manipulating information, manipulating data. And along with CNN, by the way, Oliver Darcy at CNN, they're trying to bully companies off of the X.com platform and pull it out under a false, fake, manipulative campaign to intimidate Elon Musk. Thankfully, he has what the kids like to call FU money. And he doesn't care right now what Media Matters does. In fact, he's suing Media Matters for the effort.
Exactly, he is.
It's 5:53.